Welcome to this week's episode of the Late for Load In podcast. I'm Chris. I'm here with my co-host Josh. And on this week's show, we have the legendary Jake Luhrs of August Burns Red. And I've realized as we were prepping for this show that Jake and I have known each other now for 14 years, which is absolutely insane to think about.
Jake and I have actually known each other for 0 years.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true. We've recorded this, like 2 months ago, so you've known him for 2 months now.
2 months, yeah, 2 months.
But yeah, it was a super fun conversation, because, kind of like Josh and I have said a bunch of times on this show, is like, when you're on tour with people, you don't always get to get into deep conversations and learn, like, their whole life story, and we really got a lot of Jake's life story in this episode. It's really cool. So he reflects on a lot of his like early days growing up in North Carolina and kind of his like how his humble beginnings help him appreciate the things that he has now and the things that he's been able to accomplish through the band and through his businesses and stuff like that. And he tells us about being a little punk rock kid and going to punk rock shows, and actually specifically how going to a Strike Anywhere show and meeting the singer of that band really changed his life and inspired him to want to be a frontman himself, which eventually led to him getting a spontaneous chance to audition for August Burns Red in the Thrill Seeker era of the band,
which is crazy,
absolutely insane, and basically led to a 6-month trial run, which is brutal, but
also crazy.
Also crazy, but ultimately,
because you just go on tour and you might, hey, this tour's over. Well, right. Going on the next one, I don't even know.
Right? Could you imagine? I've been a fill-in before, right? I can imagine doing it for one tour, but to still be unsure at the end of that tour what's going on,
right. You're getting a full-on audition period.
Right.
It's not like trying out once and going on and then, am I in the band? I'm not in the band. Trying out twice. Am I in the band? No, you're on it for 6 months, buddy.
Right. Yeah. So he did 6 months of that, which is much longer than I think most people would have been willing to fight through. But you know what? It paid off. So good for him.
And then we get into also how Heart Support Foundation and the Heart Support Fest was founded, and Chris and I actually did the Heart Support Fest together in Orlando, which was actually the first time I met Jake, but it was like a hi-bye thing. So I had known him for longer than 2 months, but not really known him. Sure. It was like a, hey, how you doing? Cool. Nice to meet you. All right. See you later.
Right.
And then, talking about connection and how it's essential for healing and also growth, and then we get into how the creative burnout is a real thing. And a lot of people that don't do creative things on a regular basis don't understand the creative burnout, but it is real and it's hard. And then, also how touring and touring lifestyle gets into affecting personal relationships and business relationships in some regard and things like that. Well, that's another thing that a lot of people don't realize is that when you spend that amount of time away, life at home kind of pauses. But everybody else's life at home continues to go on and on and on. And when we get back 2-3 months later, we expect to pick up right where we left off. But all those people are 3 months into the future, and here we are coming back to reset. So It has an effect on that stuff as well.
Yeah, and that's to play off of that even more. Like that's even more so where the connection stuff comes in too, is like this burnout and like trouble of being away from home. If you can't figure out, kind of like what Telly talked about in his episode, if you can't figure out how to connect and communicate with your bandmates, it's a recipe for disaster. And it's no shock that much like Telly and his Word Alive guys, like the ABR guys, have become pros at communicating and feeling this stuff out and working through it as a group.
I think though too, that's the recipe for being a band with longevity.
Absolutely.
Right? Because if you don't figure that out, especially in the early days, like you said, recipe for disaster.
Yeah, it's never going to work out. Never going to work out.
And then realistically, what I think is the most important accomplishment of his career as a sports fan, he talks about the viral video when he shook Wayne Gretzky's hand and things were changing in his life. So I can't wait for you guys to hear that, how that affected him. You saw the video, but you might not know how it affected him on the personal side. And the last little thing is that Jake gets into his favorite tour snack being Haribo gummy bears. So I encourage everyone to show up to August Burns Red shows and bring him Haribo gummy bears, because those are also my favorite snack. And maybe my new 2-month-old buddy will send me a couple packs.
He's never going to speak to us on this show ever again after that. But you know what?
I'm trying to get some gummy bears.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, without further ado, enjoy this week's episode with Jake Luhrs of August Burns Red. This episode of Late for Load-In is brought to you by Rockabilia.com, your go-to destination for 100% official band merchandise. No bootlegs, no cheap knockoffs, just authentic gear straight from the bands you love. From metal and punk to classic rock and beyond, Rockabilia has over 500,000 items in stock. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, patches, and even rare, hard-to-find collectibles. If you're looking for something exclusive, Rockabilia drops brand new limited edition merch every month. So if you see something you like, grab it before it's gone. And in fact, we just placed an order for some new merch ourselves. I picked up a very, very cool Linkin Park Meteora hoodie. Josh, did you grab something?
Yeah, I grabbed a couple things. I got a super limited Eminem tour shirt, and then what you mentioned not missing out. I saw a Meatloaf tour shirt from 2005 that I really, really wanted. Unfortunately, I didn't have my size, so I missed out on that one.
Well, there you have it. Don't wait. Our friends at Rockabilia are hooking up Late for Load-In listeners with 10% off when you use code LOAD at checkout. So if your band T collection needs a refresh and you want to support the artists who make the music we love, hit up rockabilia.com, load up your cart, and drop in code LOAD, LOAD, for that sweet discount. Now let's roll today's show.
Dude, I think this is really cool what you're doing. I love it. I think it's really awesome. And I'm excited for this conversation. I don't even think it's like an interview. It's like I'm hanging with the boys and we're going to talk about stuff, you know?
That's what we're shooting for here is like if somebody was a fly on the wall in like the front lounge of a bus while like dudes and bands are sitting and chatting, we want it to be like that.
Yeah.
We want it to be real. Like we want to like know about the dudes who are in the bands, not the persona they put on when they step on stage. And like, I want to know what it's actually like to be on tour. Like it's a struggle. It's not always fun. And more times than not, it's more shitty than it is fun. And like, I want to know about that stuff because you get like all these music podcasts out there are only covering like the pretty stuff. And we want to talk about that stuff too. But like, I want to know like being in a band is fucking tough. And no one wants to talk about that or admit it for some reason. I don't know why.
And we all went through it. We all have gone through it and had our own journeys and how we dealt with it. So that was the coolest part was like, okay, well, now we can learn about our friends' journeys and how they did it. And to be honest, having some of these conversations that we've had so far has been in a weird way, almost therapeutic in a sense, because it's like you really realize that you are not alone. You know what I'm saying? Like we all are going through this down our own path, and we all have went through these similar struggles, and we all handled it, you know, differently and came out on the other side or whatever. It's cool.
But that being said, Mr. Jake Luhrs, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to hang out with us here on the Late for Load-In podcast, man. I appreciate you.
We said hang out, and we got deep like right away. Like
we did.
Like it wasn't like, hey, nice to meet you. It was fucking just in it, deep.
Yeah.
Before we get too much further in here, I was all day I've been thinking about how we were going to do this podcast today. And I was thinking about the first time you and I met almost exactly 14 years ago, dude.
Wow, that's insane.
How crazy is that? 14 years, man.
That blows my mind. Like I literally just had my 40th birthday. Like up to my birthday, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm dreading this. Like I'm like, oh, you know. But then I took this moment, like we always have a choice, right? And I was like, you know what? I can either sit here and be all, you know, sad for myself that I'm, you know, at this place, or I can look back at all of the cool shit that I got to do and how it's still here and I get to enjoy it. And like, dude, I'm blessed to the fact that I'm still a touring musician. I still get to travel the world. I still get to hang out with my friends. I still get to create as an artist and share my message of whatever it might be. And it's like, dude, this is really cool, man. Like, this is a cool ride. Yeah, there's tons of bumps in the road, but it's like, that's life, you know? So, yeah, looking back at 14 years ago, I mean, we were just kids and the industry has changed dramatically, you know?
It's a completely different world. Completely different.
Insanity.
I can't wait to get into that because I'm curious to know how you have learned to navigate this new, I mean, it's like not even like a little bit different. It's completely different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The journey, the path is not the same. I mean, you know, we're touring in a van and trailer, picking up a phone, you know, calling the venue because on the map, they weren't on the map. You know what I mean? It's like,
right. Definitely.
Now at a click of a button, you've got something guiding you. And as a musician, when you're on stage, there is your musicianship, right? You being an artist. And then there's the craft of performance. But then there's also, the entertainment. You're an entertainer, right? So it's like to encapsulate that and to be able to do all of those things at the same time really, really well was admired when we were in this small genre at the time. It was like, no way, dude, can they do that? Now there's fake stuff everywhere, or or people aren't even excited about the music. They're more excited about the person who did something really crazy in this moment. And there's shock factors, and now your dopamine and social media. So yeah, it's evolved into something way bigger than what I had ever imagined. And I think it's an honor and a privilege to have been a part of the ride of the legacy and history of the growth of the music scene. And the fact that we have fans that still love our music, that still support us, it's like, whoa, this is really a beautiful story when you look at it,
Do you remember the moment that you decided you wanted to be a frontman? You wanted to do this?
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah. And it's a really cool story, like, to me anyways. Growing up, like, my parents got divorced when I was young. My family has struggled with a lot of turmoil, a lot of anger and frustration and all of these things. And I was a little tiny dude. Like, I was a little scrawny kid. I wasn't popular. I didn't get the best education. Growing up, there was a time where when my parents got divorced, my mom and my sister and I had to move into lower income housing. And my mom's a warrior. She had like double jobs, and she's being a mom and a dad and all this crazy stuff.
Moms are the true heroes of the world. They really are.
Dude, I have so much respect for moms. It's just because I've seen the strength that it takes to be a mother, but then put in a role where she's not supposed to be because she's supposed to have somebody helping,
Right.
But I digress. So I was bullied a lot in school. I remember in elementary school, man, there was a teacher with a glass eye and a missing finger, and she was sexist. So we would play four corners, and she would like tell the girls where all the boys were in the room. And she basically, like, you ever remember the TV show Reading Rainbow?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That was like my education, bro. Like, we would just sit in class. They put something on the TV. That's it. And then coming home, it was a challenge, man. Like the area, the neighborhood. And so I kind of grew up very fast, understanding that I just needed to survive or protect myself. I needed to, there were times where I was selling toys on the street and just getting involved in how do I make this work, right? So then I stumble upon, fast forward, my sister and I. She's deep into music.
Older or younger?
Older. She's 4 years older than me. She's punk rock. She's listening to Sex Pistols, Dead Kennedy. She's also listening to like Beastie Boys and Tupac and Biggie. And so I remember one Christmas, my mom gave me a CD player, and my first CD was Green Day Dookie.
Let's go.
Yeah, dude. And that was just the beginning of my excitement for music. And watching my sister buying, albums all the time, bringing them home, listening to them. I would go in her room, and I would bet we would gamble our CDs and play cards. And bro, I go in that room, shut the door. An hour later, I come out with like 4 of her records, and I just go walk 8 feet and turn into my room. And then I just put her music on. I just turn it up, dude. And she gets so pissed, dude. She'd be so upset with me. So when I was listening to that style of music, the punk rock stuff, I really started to gravitate to it, and I thought it was cool. And I'm fast forward, I'm about 16 years old, and I started getting some punk rock friends in school, and they're like, yo, let's go. We're going to go to this Strike Anywhere show. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I didn't know who Strike Anywhere was, but the people I was hanging out with were older than me, and they were punk rock, and I wanted to be punk rock. So I was like, well, I'm going. I got to go to this thing. So I go to the show. It's at a place called New Brooklyn Tavern. It's a little hole in the wall.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That was like my stomping grounds, bro.
A legendary spot.
Yeah, I lived there for my teens. So I go to this show, and Strike Anywhere is playing, and the frontman is just ripping on stage. And I mean, he's got these long dreads, and he's running around, and he's preaching his gospel, man. He's like, they're very politically driven and heavy in that, but there was a sense of like, don't let the mainstream dictate who you are. Don't let the politicians tell you what you can or can't do or who you should be and who you shouldn't be. This is punk. And I was like, this is the coolest thing I think I've ever seen. Because the feeling that I got from this guy just showing all of his emotion and just wearing his heart on his sleeve, I was so drawn to this punk rock thing because I felt like I didn't fit in at school. I felt like I didn't fit in at home. I felt like nobody cared about me and nobody understood me and all this. And here's this guy. He gets off the stage and I'm like, I gotta meet him. I gotta say hi to him. So I walk up to him and I have a Sharpie in my hand and I was like, hey man, will you sign my arm, And I pull my wrist out and he's like, yeah, of course. And so he signs it and then he gives me the Sharpie and I'm looking down at his signature. I'm like, dude, this is so cool. And I look up and he's got his wrist out and he's like, now you sign my arm. And
so awesome.
That moment was when I knew I wanted to be a frontman. That exact moment, because what it did was it said that I mattered. I'm just the same. And it said that I'm equal with this dude. And I'm looking at him as like a ferocious lion. And he's saying, no, you're a lion too, And I'm like, what? And so that's when I was like, I've got to figure out how to do this,
So when did you figure out you could scream the way you scream? When did you learn that you could make that sound? Because I got to be honest, Chris was talking about how he was waiting for this podcast all day and he was thinking all this stuff. And I was doing the same thing, but I was afraid of that sound. It's a little scary, dude.
You must not know me that well. We got to become better homies.
He's a teddy bear.
It's a scary sound. Okay, that's fine. I'm happy to do that. But I'm just saying, that's a scary sound, dude. Like when no, seriously though, when did you learn that you could do that with your voice?
Yeah, so I was in a band called Last Snow in Columbia, South Carolina, and it was like a post. I think back then it was called post-hardcore. And so that was like, the singing and the screaming and stuff. And we wanted to expand into that screaming realm. And I was playing bass at the time. And so I just kind of gave it a go. And I sounded like a vampire. It was complete garbage. It was like, and like my voice was hurting. And I remember my drummer being like, yo, don't ever do that again. And I was like, listen.
I'm going to spit up this Parlor root beer here.
Yeah. I was like, listen, give me some time, man. Let me cook. So I just would just listen intently to like Hope's Fall, No Wings to Speak Of. That record changed my life. Norma Jean, Bless the Martyr, Kiss the Child changed my life. And Such Poison the Well, bands like that. And I would lay in my bed and I would just put my headphones on and I would just listen to the vocals and try to imagine what they're doing with their voice. Where is it coming from? Because back then, like we didn't have technical terms like fry or
right.
You know what I mean? Like there was.
This is even like pre like Melissa Cross,
Yeah.
And like for sure pre David Benitez, like the newer age Melissa Cross guy. At this time, you're kind of just stuck really figuring out, and either you blow your voice out in the process or you figure out how to do it. Right. There was no like metal vocal coach back then.
Yeah. And by the way, the two people that you mentioned, Melissa and Dave, like phenomenal coaches. I've worked with both of them.
Yep, they're both the best.
But when, back then, there wasn't like, it wasn't available. And I would just listen to them all the time. And then I would try to mimic them and mimic the sound and understand how it works. And then it went into, okay, how do I keep this? How can I keep doing this and not hurting my voice? And understanding that there's a balance. And the microphone or the PA system is your saving grace because you can turn yourself up and you don't have to scream as hard. The thing that I struggle with is that I get very emotional. And I think like that same energy that I felt from the singer from Strike Anywhere, his name is blank. I'm blank with his name, but I wanted that same energy. And so a lot of times I battle nightly with, okay, you better tone it back, bro. Like you're getting
you still got a whole tour to do. You better throttle it back some.
Yeah. You're at song 8 and there's, 14 or 15 of these things. So you better just chill. But, and that's kind of where it started, and then once I joined August Burns Red, it was like, okay, this is my career. I'm doing this full time. I finally made it to this position. And so then I spent years working on different ranges and how to communicate what I wanted to communicate in the ways that I wanted it to be communicated. So there's yelling, there's dirty yelling, there's high screams. We call them eagles. There's the Thrill Seeker scream, which sounds a lot like the original singer from Thrill Seeker, Josh McManus. Your lows, all of these types of different ways, And like, I remember Messengers when we wrote that record. That was my first album with ABR, and Toom Matson was the producer. And there's this talking part that I wanted it to sound like I ran miles and miles to tell you. And so I just remember being in the studio and I'm in the booth and I'm just jogging in place until like I'm out of breath and I'm sweating. And then I think about, I'm trying to think in my mind, like how important this is that I'm about to say this to this person. And that's the energy that I wanted to do. So like, there's all that kind of stuff that you think about when you think about being an artist, I think, versus just a frontman of a band, or just writing what people want to hear.
There's a couple things that just brought to mind. One is you talking about the running in place thing. Have you heard the story about Randy from Lamb of God recording one of the songs on, I think the record is Sacraments, the record that has that redneck song on it or whatever? But they were doing it with Machine, and there was a part where Machine wanted him to sound like it's like the last song in the set. He's giving it everything he's got. He's winded. He's out of breath. So he literally made Randy do a lap around the building and hit record as he was coming in the front door and handed him a mic and made him track it right after that for the like a very similar effect of what you were going for. So it's crazy to hear that, like, completely unrelated, and you would have been tracking that record before they were doing that record, and like the two concepts they weren't inspired by each other, but you were trying to get a very similar concept. So that's crazy to hear.
It's so fascinating to me because the casual listener doesn't realize what you did to make it sound the way that you made it sound. You understand what I mean? Like it's almost like you wish you could document that in a visual way to show what the running in place and all that to deliver the message the way that you wanted to deliver it. The artistry there is just incredible to me.
I mean, it's commitment.
Yeah.
I think it's just like that's the part, in my opinion, like it's things like that make it what it is. So when you sit there and say, yeah, we're going to put out this record, it's the moments like that you're like, yeah, man. And that's why it's special to me.
Right.
It may not be special to the person who listens to it because they didn't run in place in the booth to get that or to feel that. But what's even cooler is when you put in all this energy and time and work into creating a song, like for us, Mariana's Trench is the one that I'm thinking of right now. And then you get on stage and you perform that song, and there's every night numerous people crying and just singing along. And it's like, and that messes me up too, because it's like, I know what that song means to me. It's not maybe the same thing to this person, but like what's happening right now, the energy and where the power of music is taking both of us it's like a miracle, or it's like a superpower or something out of this world,
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the most beautiful things about music is like you have all this intent that you are putting into the lyrics that you are, that are like leaving your body in a very physical way, and it's doing a lot of things to you mentally, emotionally, physically, but the person that is receiving it on the other side may not take it in the same way, but it's still going to have some sort of impact on them. And like, that's the cool thing about it. It can be interpreted in any way by anybody at any time. And like, and however it is interpreted, like it's just as important. You talked about seeing people cry when you guys play Mariana's Trench. When we don't do it very often because it's tough for Vigil, but when we play the song White Light, which is about Vigil's brother passing, every single time without fail, there will be like a handful of people in the crowd crying, which will inevitably make me start to well up and stuff too, watching that happen.
Yeah.
And it's like that song couldn't be more specifically about Ryan, Vigil's brother, who passed away. But people, obviously can relate to losing somebody. It's not exactly, obviously it's not, they're not crying about Vigil's brother passing, but they know what that feels like. And so, it's a very specific topic for that song that people that can then take and apply to their own lives. And like, clearly it's hitting them, it's not how Vigil intended it necessarily, but it's hitting them too. And I don't know, that's one of my favorite things about music is like anything can be interpreted 9,000 ways, but as long as it is impacting somebody in some way, then it doesn't really matter how it's interpreted. I just hope that, and I'm sure you can feel this way too, but I just hope that like whatever that I'm putting out into the world is like I'd rather somebody have a genuine reaction, even if it's a negative one. I just want to elicit some sort of response. Like having somebody listen to what I'm doing and feel nothing is like my worst fear in the world. Like that sucks so much more than somebody being like, not your best song. I would rather somebody be like, that song sucks than be like, I don't know, it didn't do anything for me at all. Like that would be the worst feeling ever, so.
Yeah.
What does that feel like? Like, cause I'm not a creator, right? I'm not an artist in that regard. So like, I'm curious, what does it feel like to be able to know you can write the words that you're feeling and they have that kind of impact on other people?
For me anyways, it's a responsibility that I hold in high regard, because it's like I had a conversation with another musician, not going to name his name, but their music had a lot of dark stuff, and I said, well, what do you think that does for the people who listen to it? And he's like, oh, it's just a joke, or it's just good fun or something. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, because I feel like we have, because of our scene, right? Like we were gifted the authority and to be in this position where we can have the ability to write music, and what we write is cycled into the people who are attracted to us, right? And so I feel like, I don't think that there's anything wrong with being genuine and transparent with your emotions. If they're negative, I don't have a problem with that. I understand and comprehend. And I actually think that a lot of growth comes from suffering. But I also think that I have the position and the gift that the community has given me to write something that is going to be of value. And when I say value, I mean something that is going to be helpful. Something that somebody's going to be able to take that and apply it to their life, and it's going to benefit them, not tearing them down or pushing them in a negative path or direction. And that's just my own conviction. People are obviously clearly free to do whatever they want. But that's the way I see it for myself. It's like, well, if I'm going to, I always say it's like preaching the gospel. It's like for each band has their own gospel, right? And, for me, I think that my gospel has to be of strength, suffering, but encouragement and love and beauty and joy or excitement. I think that for me, that I take that very serious. And so there's a lot of things that, because Brent writes lyrics, sometimes JB or Matt will write lyrics, I write lyrics.
Yeah, you guys are like super collaborative on that front, right?
Yeah, we try for a different array of different reasons, but I put some boundaries on that. I'm not going to sing anything I don't.
Well, yeah, you have to, whether they're your words or not, you have to be the mouthpiece and the face that's tied to those words. So yeah, I would imagine that I could see you being like, whoa. I need to be able to like find some sort of relation here to some things that I feel as well. I could totally understand that.
Yeah, well, because it's like I'm the voice piece. I'm the art that carries those words, and so I've got to connect with them for me to be able to express them with
conviction
and being genuine. Right. So there are times where I go, "Oh, I'm not going to sing that."
Yeah.
Like I'm like, don't even think about it. We're not going to think about this one because it's just not going to happen.
Right.
That's an extreme rarity at this point, but that's important. I think that boundaries are healthy.
Absolutely.
I think that that's how we can all work together, is if we know, where we're going and how we're going to go there and what's okay and what's not okay. So, that's definitely a part of our process.
You talked about that responsibility. Do you ever feel pressure from that? And I'm getting way off of the direction we were planning on going in this conversation, but I'm genuinely curious. This is quite the interesting conversation to me, because do you feel pressure from that at all ever?
From like that I need to uphold the message that I'm.
I mean, I guess maybe that people I'm guessing on what Josh is going off here, but like maybe
Yeah,
the
go.
people, because I wonder this about Vigil sometimes too, because Vigil writes a lot of like very uplifting, resilience, overcome tragedy kind of stuff. I wonder this about him, and I've never asked him, and I probably should because we're in a band together. But you know, like, is there a pressure of being the person that people look to in times of like suffering and like needing to find strength to like push through hard times? Like, I guess was that what you were getting at, Josh? Is like being somebody's guiding light when they're going through a hard time. Like, do you feel that weight of like always having to make sure that you're that person for them?
That's exactly what I was meaning.
Yeah. So I mean, that's why, you know, I think it was 13 years ago, you know, I started in 2011, I started Heart Support, you know, because I was talking to fans at merch tables, and they were telling me that, like, or they were sharing, like this one girl said that, you know, she was abused by her father, and the song Redemption gave her hope to forgive him and get healing. A couple guys came up to me, they were heroin addicts, and they said they had been 6 months sober, and every morning they would wake up and listen to our song Composure. So I'm hearing all these like real stories, and I'm just a dude. Like, I'm just a man, just like everybody else. I've made mistakes. I've made great decisions. And you also need to understand, or I think people should see this, because there is this almost facade that because I'm on a stage, I'm greater or I'm stronger. But, you know, I come from the sense of the dude on the stage signed my arm, you know, like we're equals, because the lyrics that are coming from me are coming from a place of actual experience. I'm not writing them for record sales. I'm writing them because they're written on my heart. And so, you know, there is that connection, and I genuinely feel like it's a part of my personal purpose to help make an impact in our music scene more than just being on the stage. And so that's when, you know, my faith is a big thing. And so that might come out in conversations. It's not to tell you what to believe in. It's my story. Right.
Sure.
But, you know, there was a night we were on tour with The Day to Remember, first tour we've ever been, maybe the only tour we've ever been on, that was sold out every night. Blew my mind. And we were playing these back-to-back shows in Chicago. And the first night I was up at 2, 3 in the morning. I'm like, God, thank you for this experience. Like, you have given me this thing and my dreams. And how can I repay you? Like, what can I do to give back to these people? Because I'm just so thankful. And the vision of Heart Support came up, and I wrote it all down on a piece of paper. And the next day, one of my buddies from Columbia, South Carolina, actually lived in Chicago, found out I played a show, and he was a web designer. And so we had lunch the next day, and I just gave him the paper. I gave him $1,500, and I was like, please build this for me. And that was the beginning of that. And so what I built was an online community for people in a music scene to find healing or to discuss their mental health and be encouraged with that. And so because I saw the need and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to fulfill that on my own, I wanted to build a team. And so like, that's what I did to try to help in that area. I still talk to fans, and, you know, when they're struggling, if I'm here or if I can have a conversation, but I have to understand my limitations and the fact that I'm not able to carry the burden of others to that degree, because I have my own burdens that I need to invest in myself. Right. So yeah, that's basically what evolved from that experience was, Heart Support.
For the record, I think Heart Support is a amazing thing that you've done. I think it's super. It's something that we need in our community, because I feel like there's always been, even myself included, when, you know, there's always been this like ego blow of admitting that we were struggling, right? You know, all that the fans do see is, and I'm not in a band, but all the fans do see is the stage and the good stuff, but they don't see the hard times. And, you know, like it's, you know, you both know it's tough to be on the road 10 months a year. Right. And those struggles are difficult, but as, you know, men, traditionally, we don't want to admit that. So I think that, you know, using your platform and showing that it is okay to admit that and have these type of open conversations, you know, to aid in that is awesome. So I personally appreciate and thank you for creating that.
Yeah, and I think even past like the just being men thing and it being like, this stigma for men always not wanting to talk about their mental health struggles. It's like men in metal bands at that, like talk about like how much more testosterone driven can you be outside of being like, like a UFC fighter or something. But it's like, we're in a scene of people who are like puffing out their chest, always trying to be like, I'm tough and strong and I play this scary music. It's like, we're all fucking broken and sad and depressed. And like, whether you're going to admit it or not, it's just the truth. And like, so I do, like Josh said, I think it is one of the more incredible things that someone from our scene of music has like stepped up to do, to create like a safe space for people to come and like, talk about those things. Cause I've been pretty open about this. I'm not on the podcast yet, but like on my socials and like when I stream on Twitch and stuff, like I've battled anxiety, depression in pretty serious ways for a large portion of my life. I grew up with not exactly the best home life, and I love my parents to death, but like that was a pretty rocky situation for me growing up. And luckily I grew up with a mom who battled with those same issues in her own way and made it very apparent to me that like, it's fine for me to feel that way. It's fine for me to talk about that. So while I have battled that stuff, I feel very fortunate that I was raised to never feel bad about voicing that I was feeling bad. But I do know that like not everybody had that same upbringing. Not everybody feels comfortable talking about that stuff. So I do think that it's awesome that someone in your position in a band that is as respected as you guys are, being a frontman that is respected as you are, has created this platform that's like, hey, we're all a little bit messed up and that's all right. Like you can come here and talk to us. Like we get it. Like we'll get through this. Like I don't know. I think it's a really special thing that you and your team have like really built up. And I think it's awesome that you took the initiative to do that. Not only just having that aha moment of the idea, but then to actually put it into motion. Like that's through. Huge. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I appreciate the kind words, guys, because for a long time it wasn't something it was something I was doing and trying to build, but it wasn't respected or appreciated. It wasn't like several years of working and trying to help, and people were like, "Oh, that's cute" or "That's cool," but they never wanted to acknowledge or appreciate it. So hearing that like means a lot to me. You don't really know, and I also think it's kind of hardcore. It's like, here's these people, that are the black sheeps because no one wants to, and it's like, dude, like it's the same thing as like the hardcore scene in the very beginning. It's like, yeah, we're coming together. We're going to help each other out. We're going to protect one another. We're going to build together. And the way that I kind of see mental health is like, look at it like a circle and like a graph, right? And it's thank you. And so you've got maybe 15% of that graph is your hopes and dreams, right? Yep. And then you've got all of this other stuff and the struggles mentally with all of these other things that you have going on in your life is going to keep you from investing in that dream. You can't do it, right? So if we can figure out what you're mentally struggling with, dude, it could be that you feel exhausted. Okay, why? Then what are things that are making you feel that way? What are you telling yourself when you get triggered and you feel exhausted, right? It's like, okay, so then all of a sudden now you start to build on that. Where you go, actually, I'm not exhausted. I feel fine. And I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go exercise and it's going to give me more energy. And then I'm going to be able to come and attack this situation with a more sober, clear mind. And like, as you do that, this other world starts to open up and now you're living fucking completely different. And it's like, why is this changing? Well, it's because you engaged who you are and how you process things and how you feel about things. And then you start looking at your habits and you're like, these are some poor habits. Well, what's the cause? What's the root of those poor habits? Well, I was molested when I was a kid. Okay. So that's connected here. Yes. Okay. Well, then let's talk about that. Let's figure out what is that? How do we forgive? How do we move past? Because the past experiences, big trauma, little trauma, doesn't matter. It starts to create and mold you into a person. And if you don't look back at some of these things and address them, it's like you're living in the past, just in the present day.
Yeah, I agree.
And all the things, like I think we were built for great purpose, and the dreams that we have, the desires that are in our hearts, like I believe they're supposed to be. And a lot of the things that are our past, like let's say you get in a really toxic relationship and then you lose trust in others. And now it's really hard for you. You want to be with somebody else, but you have troubles trusting someone. That's going to stay this way unless you learn, heal, forgive, move past. And that's in your head, dude. You know, like we all live in our head. So it's like today we're talking together, and it was like one of the things was like, man, tour's really hard. It's like, yes, it is. Absolutely. But what am I going to choose to think about tour? Like I said, I just had my 40th birthday. I could have chosen to be like, pity me, I'm getting old. It went by so fast. Or I could go, dude, look at all this cool shit you did. And it's still here. And now you get to bask in it and enjoy it, appreciate it, and then continue to build on it. You know, and it's like, there's always a choice. And so I just want people to know that there's a choice. I want them to be able to talk about what's going on so that they can make a choice with understanding what it looks like and knowing that it's okay that you've got some stuff in your closet, but let's take those things out and let's figure it out so that this dream that you want can grow in your life and you can become stronger, better, have more purpose and fulfillment. And so that when you're on your deathbed, you don't go, yeah, I never did it because of this, or this thing has always been with me. You know, it's like, dude, I don't want people in that place. I've been there. Sometimes I still struggle in those places.
I find myself in a place like that more often than I would like to admit. Yeah, I get it. It's really easy to end up in that place.
I think a lot of us do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Today's show is sponsored by Bestronix Pro Audio. Let's be real. Your rig is only as solid as the cables running through it. Whether you're touring the world or building out your dream setup at home, you need quality cables that won't let you down. That's where Bestronix Pro Audio comes in. BTPA specializes in full tour rig builds, custom cabling solutions, and if you're the hands-on DIY type, they've got bulk cable and connectors so you can wire up your own setup exactly how you want it. Everything they make is road-tested, built to last, and trusted by the pros. And because you're part of the Late for Load-In crew, BTPA is giving you 10% off your order. Just use the code LFLI10 at checkout and save on the best cables in the business. So don't let bad cables kill your tone or ruin your set. Hit up btpa.com, lock in that discount, and keep your rig dialed and ready for the road. We all know that music isn't just sound, it's connection, it's healing, it's everything when you're feeling lost. That's why Late for Load-In is partnering with Heart Support, the nonprofit founded by Jake Luhrs of August Burns Red to bring real, free peer support straight to you.
Are you feeling down and need someone to talk to? Just text Late for Load-In to 1-512-647-2871 and get connected with someone who understands, someone who gets how music pulls us through the hardest times. It's totally free, totally judgment-free, and 100% about supporting you through the music we love.
And if you're in a good place right now, you can be part of healing the scene. Heart Support is looking for volunteer repliers, fans like you, who want to help others through the power of music. You'll be trained to support fellow fans who are struggling and join a community built on connection, mental health, and the music that keeps us going.
And again, if you need support, text Late for Load-In to the number 1-512-647-2871. If you want to be support, sign up at heartsupport.com/volunteer. Together, we're making this scene stronger.
Today's episode is brought to you by you, our incredible listeners and patrons over at patreon.com/LFLIpod. By joining, you'll get early access to episodes, exclusive monthly giveaways featuring rare memorabilia from Josh and I's time on the road, and access to our patron-only music review and reaction live streams. But that's not all. You'll also get into the Late for Load-In Road Crew Discord, where you can connect with fellow fans, submit guest requests, and drop your questions for the show. The best part? It's just $1 a month. If you love what we're doing and want to help keep the show rolling, head over to patreon.com/LFLIpod and join the road crew today. Now, back to the show.
I got two things. First of all, I recently had a conversation and somebody told me that the 40s were the best years of his life. So I think that we're all coming up on, ideally, the best years of our life. So you should be celebrating 40. Put that there. But I have a serious question, though. What do you tell somebody? And the reason that I ask this is because I have a family member who struggles. He doesn't want to admit that he struggles, but he struggles. And what do you tell somebody who has had trauma but doesn't want to address it. Like they refuse, almost they refuse to address it, because look, when you address it, you have to revisit it in some sort of sense, right?
Absolutely.
So how do you a drug addict, they have to want to be sober to get sober. We can all make them get sober, but they're not going to actually get sober till they want it, right? So with this, how do you tell somebody that it's okay to address it? And it is better on the other side. Once you address it,
it's
and
gonna
get rid of it.
suck at first, but once you get through that tough conversation,
right,
and process, it will start getting better.
How do you convince them that, though, right? Like, what is it that how do you get them to dig, and how do you get them to be willing to open that closet and take the shit out and have a fucking yard sale, for God's sake? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I do know what you're saying, and that's a really difficult. Like, there isn't a blanket statement.
Yeah, right.
Because in order to have the authority to speak on somebody's life in that degree.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've got to be a homie.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Cause people told me stuff or said, oh, you need to do, and I'm like, there's this scripture in the Bible where there's these priests that walk into this room, and the room has demons in this person, and so the priests walk in there and they're trying to exorcise the demons out of this person, right? And the demon says to them, I know who Jesus is. I've heard of Paul, but who the fuck are you? And then the demons just beat the shit out of these guys, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's what I'm saying, is like, there's got to be an intimacy of connection to have the authority to speak. And, you will know when you have that authority when they ask you.
Yeah, sure.
And they're listening to what you're saying. Now, the other thing is, we have no control over anything. I can't convince you. I can,
right, sure.
Because what happens is I'm just going to speak at you until I'm blue in the face, and then I'm going to go, "Whoa, I do the best I can," and you're not going to do anything, right?
Right.
So, like, giving up the idea that you can actually change someone helps relieve you of feeling like you're failing, because that can happen when it's friends, and you're just like, "I don't know, man," and you feel bad, or a family member, but when you can have the intimate conversation about really what's going on here, you bring up the examples, and you basically can convey to them that, nothing's going to change if nothing changes. And you can offer things like your time and, hey man, next time you're struggling, call me. Now, what I've learned and what I've seen is that it's very hard to share with other people because of the shame that comes with this thing.
Sure.
Okay. But what's not funny, but what's real about that is that if they can come to you in a moment of shame and you can just love on them, you have now become a safe, legit homie.
Yeah.
And that's what they need, because they think nobody likes them. They are ashamed. They're more ashamed than you are. They're more hurt. You have no clue what that person is going through in their minds, or what they've experienced in their past to get to this place. They're probably thankful that they're still alive, or they actually just don't want to live. And so we need to just be there in the moment, so that when they open up and share and they recognize that you're going to love them, now the fear of shame starts to dissipate, right? And now they're like, wait a second, that was not that bad. And I can admit when I'm wrong. And like, that's like the first step. That's like the first door, when somebody is going through so much and they're addicted to something, or there's a real heavy issue, they sometimes have got to just get to their place in their journey. And you can pray, or if you positive thoughts or whatever it is that you do to try to support someone from afar, that they don't kill themselves, But when I think about it, it's like, there's way more than what you're seeing. And and we have to, if we really want to love people or care about them, we've got to earn our stripes to be in the room with them. And then once we're in the room with them, love them, and then just have conversations about ideas of what it would be if you didn't do that, or why don't we try and go do this instead? Or why don't we go to an AA meeting? I'll come with you. Or, therapy. Like, I use this therapist. She's awesome. Check it out. or I'll go to
Yeah,
therapy
yeah,
with
yeah.
you, you know, things like that. Like nowadays, I feel like society has lost this connection, this personal connection. So that's what people are hungry for. People are hungry to feel. And we're all on this earth and none of us are feeling because we're not connected.
Right.
And so the more you get connected with homies, the more they influence you, the more they impact you, the more they can direct you in a healthier way where you don't want to go back in that hole, because out here you're learning, you're growing, you're feeling better, you're excited, you know? So like that's the thing that you can be, is fucking just be human with this person and share life with them, do life with them. Cause the same thing's going to happen. They filled up, you know, all their time drinking, and they got this little slither for sleep and hope.
Sure.
Right. And then you come along, and all of a sudden now, instead of drinking 14 hours in a day, they're drinking 6 hours in a day, and then 4 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours. And now they're not even drinking. They don't even care about it anymore, because what they were longing for has arrived. And this thing that was fulfilling them is now a deterrent. It's like, that's a fake representation of love or safety and security, or, you know what I mean?
Totally. Sometimes to be honest, and this is not in any particular person, but sometimes when people have come to me, I have felt like I was going through my own stuff, and it's hard to constantly be a strong for someone else when you're battling with your own stuff as well. You know what I mean? Like, man, like I'm going through it and this is tough and the kids are this and bills and all this shit is happening. And then you got to almost put on this fake face to be strong for someone else who's going through it, because you don't want them to.
Just like you're putting on a strong face because you want to feel like you're that safe space for people when they come to you. But the reality is like we're all going through it. You know, but you almost don't. It's like you don't want them to feel like a burden for coming to you, because you don't want them to know that you're going through shit, because you don't want them to feel like they can't speak to you because you don't have the bandwidth. But the reality is like we're all going through it, and it would be real easy for somebody who's really going through it and they're finally reached a point where they're like, okay, I'm ready to reach out for help. I need someone to talk to. And it would be real easy for a person in that vulnerable state to hear that you've also got shit going on and be like, oh, just kidding. Don't worry about me. I'm all good. And then they back themselves out of the situation. I feel like it becomes even tougher as you get older. You get more responsibilities. Like you brought up bills, kids. You know, Josh and I are both dads. Your plate of responsibilities and life shit fills up real quick, and your bandwidth for other things, it gets much thinner. But I don't know. I think that part of it is just you just do the best that you can. Like
I had a friend growing up, right? And this is not mental health related. Kind of it, I guess. About I had a friend growing up, and he never really became an adult. I'll just put it that way. And you want to see them win. You want to see them succeed. But you came from the same exact place. So when at some point all you hear is excuses, right? It's like, well, I can't do this because of that. I can't do this because of that. I can't do this because it's. But then you get to the point where you almost want to say to him, it's like, man, if I can get out of the mud, so can you. You know? And then it's constant excuse after excuse after excuse, and then you get to the point where it's like, man, I just don't have the bandwidth to continue to have the same conversation with you. To hear you repeat these same exact excuses. You know what I mean? Like it's I don't know. It's just tough.
I mean, I feel like it comes down to like it's very similar to the you know, the addict thing that we talked about earlier, or you brought up earlier, where it's like if they're not ready to do it, they're not ready to do it. You can give the advice all day long, and you can encourage all day long, and that's all you can do at the end of the day, unfortunately, is you can just hold the space open for them to come to you, and you can give advice where you can. But if they're not willing to pull themselves out of it, like, what are you supposed to do?
How do you? That's what I'm saying.
Maybe that's not the right approach. I don't know, but
maybe not.
I don't know.
But I guess where I'm going with this is how do you get someone to understand that everybody is capable. I believe that if I can get out of the fucking mud, anybody can get out of the mud. And how do you get someone to understand that? You know what I mean? Like that's if you just go to work and work figuratively, but if you just apply yourself is what I guess I should say. If you just apply yourself, man, everybody should be more than capable to get out of the fucking mud and stand up and clean yourself off and keep going.
Right. So, what about space? Do you like space?
Like outer space?
Mm-hmm.
I guess. Yeah, it's neat.
Okay. So if we're like,
it scares me. It scares me.
It scares me too, but it's kind of cool though. You know,
okay. So it's scary, right? Space is scary.
Yeah.
And if I was like, yo, man, I'm gonna strap you to a rocket and you're gonna go out and on Mars.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And we're gonna supply you with air and some food, but we're gonna you can do it. Yeah, he's in the mud, but like sometimes that's safe, or sometimes we don't want to get out of the mud because we're comfortable here. It's like I've kind of said it like a couple times to certain people in my life, and sometimes I even envision it for myself. Is like when you're struggling or you're going through something, it's like being in a closet and it's dark and you're safe in there because it's just you and there's no noises, there's nothing else out there. But what this person doesn't realize is that there is a party outside of that closet and they're all waiting for you to show up.
Yeah.
We're all wondering, where's Jake? We want Jake to the party. Right. And, I open the door and there's a crevice, like a little light shines through and there's noise and there's
scary.
All this stuff. And I'm like, whoa, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I can try to explain is that
it makes sense.
Sometimes it's not easy for people because sometimes they take comfort in the things that they have habitually created,
even if they want to get out.
Right. It's like, well, I could go out and that sounds better. And I might even know it's better, but this is safe. I'm not going to get hurt here. Like when you get triggered and a thought goes, oh, time to go drink. That's your brain that goes, that's what you should do right now. Cause that's how we protect ourselves. When in reality, you're going and you're going to go get buckled and your body is going to take a hit. It's not, there's nothing healthy about getting buckled. Right. It's the same thing. It's like your mind is telling you this is where we are to protect ourselves. I mean, this is survival mode. When you get triggered for something, you're trying to survive. So that's what I have to say about that. But the flip side of the other part of the conversation that you brought up, look, man, if this person is not wanting your help, if this person is not valuing your time, if this person is not appreciative of what you're here to offer, you are allowed to say, hey, you know what? I don't think this is working for me, man. I love you too much. You be honest, because those honest words, bro, those are the ones that actually start to make change. Because it's like, oh, I lost his friendship because he said he was done having these conversations, trying to help me. And it's impacting his own mental health, and his time is valuable, and he's got to, be healthy. And, it's like, so it's okay to say, look, the time has ran out, man. Like, this is not working for me. I want the best for you. I don't think I'm going to be able to help you with any of this because, and you can bring up the times, this and this, so there's that. But I also think it's really important for us to have homies that we can go to for situations in our lives. So if you're married, get a homie who's married, and that you both, biblically, it's like iron sharpens iron. You both work together, hear each other out, support each other, give each other advice. Don't go to a homie who's single and, going out to the bars every night about your marital situation. Because that dude doesn't know anything about that. You know what I'm saying? But I think it's really important that we have that and that connection. And I don't know that a lot of guys do have that connection.
Why are we afraid of that, though?
We're not. There's a lot of guys that aren't afraid of that. It might be the guys that you're hanging out with that are afraid of that. So like, you got to understand there's a certain caliber of maturity or wisdom or knowledge. Like a lot of the guys that I want to be in the room with, they think like this. It's not it's not abnormal. It's not foreign. It's actually, they're like, yo, cause I want to grow. So I'm going to have these conversations with you. Those guys don't have a lot of time. It's hard to get in the room with them. It's hard for me to catch my buddy Renee or catch my buddy Andrew, or, you know what I mean? But when we get in there, everybody's taking the mask off. We're just, this is what's up, and we get to, it's like a sacred holy ground for us to be able to really dissect stuff and get things out and figure it out. And then it's like, and then that you've got ride or dies, right? So, but then you can go to the bar and you can make friends there. And they don't give two shits about that. And you're not going to have that connection with them because they don't care about that stuff. It's not of value. It's not respected. So you've got to find men in your life that respect that and recognize that it's important in order for us to grow or expand or to succeed in the things and goals of our lives that we want to accomplish, you know? So it might just be some of the people that you're thinking about. And I would encourage you to think about other people. And I'm not saying, cause I don't want people to, you know, the internet, but it's like,
oh yeah,
but like
I
people,
know it, right?
yeah. People that you think would be interested in that. It's just very easy to be like, hey man, like I've got this thing going on, and see how they respond to it.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
And look at their actions. Like, what are they doing to fix their own lives? Or what are they pouring their time and energy into? How good are they? I always want to be the smallest dude in the room, because I just want to shut up and just listen and learn, and then admire and be inspired, and then want to be that, you know?
Yep. I love that. I think that's like genuinely sage wisdom. That's like, I don't, there might be people who take that the wrong way, but I think that those are the people.
You could.
No, well, because it's the internet and everyone will find a way to take anything you say at all in the wrong way. True. But I think that, and this might piss people off more, is that I think the people,
off, actually.
Well, shut up. The kind of person who would be upset by a comment like that is probably the people that you shouldn't be hanging out with and spending your time with anyway. Those are the only people who are going to find any sort of, problem with what was said. And that's only because I think that they know deep down that they are those the people that you are referring about maybe not wanting to spend your time with, which I think is, that's a fair assessment of a situation like that. But
have you ever felt like your creative flame was burning out?
Good question, because I battle this.
Yeah, I think there's been, it's kind of like a roller coaster ride, I think that especially with certain seasons of life and certain experiences that you go through where you're just like, hey, I got to take a break. Like, this is just not good. And when you realize that, it's important for you to do that, because you're wasting everyone's time.
Yep.
If you don't get help.
Yep.
Or if you don't get recharged, or if you don't have your head in the game, like being in a band, having a career, being a professional, having a responsibility, all of that stuff carries weight. And so it's like, if you're struggling, then it's your job to speak up. And then it's your job to commit to a process of however or whatever it takes to figure that out. And I've have to raise my hand, because that's me. I've struggled with drinking. I've struggled with past traumas, being abused when I was a kid, and those types of things really mess you up. And so it's like, because you're playing this, I'm this guy to everybody all the time on stage or on social media. But then behind closed doors, you're struggling with, things that are going on at home, or something that happened with the family member. And, it's like, okay, man, like if you need to take a pause, and that comes down to touring. It comes down to what you're doing, your work, and then the creativity. But what's cool is that whenever I feel like I'm not got the creativity flowing, I think about suffering, and I think about process and seasons, and that it's okay right now that I can't process the ability to write a lyric or to do something in an artistic way. But if I could, what would I want to do about it right now? What would be the first step of getting there? And that's where it's like, okay, let's build something here. Let's acknowledge the feeling that I ain't got shit right now. But then let's dream. Well, what would it be like? What do you want? What is there? And a lot of times when I think about my struggles or things that I've gone through that are heavy in life, I get this immense gratitude, feeling of being grateful. And usually that kicks me in gear. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go to bed, and I'm gonna chill. But tomorrow I'm gonna chase after inspiration.
I'm curious, has that burnout ever extended into the touring side of stuff? Because if our manager knew that I was going to talk about this, he'd probably tell me to just shut up and not acknowledge it at all. But in attempt to be as transparent as possible, which is the whole point of this podcast, right? Is we canceled our first tour ever at the end of last year, because we hit a point where, we're in a very different position than we were before our accident, where like we have a lot of physical things holding us back and like limiting what we can handle. Touring is much different for us now, and a lot of us, like I have 2 kids. I didn't have any kids before our accident, right? And trying to tour with kids is a lot, and we committed to way too much touring in a row. I think we thought that we reached the place that we were pre-accident, where we were like, we used to tour 9-10 months out of the year, tours back to back, and we never thought twice about it. It's just, oh, there's another tour, cool, someone wants to book us for a one-off on the opposite side of the world, let's go, pack the bags, and
Right.
and we wouldn't even bat an eye at it, but we got halfway through Europe and went, I think if we do the US tour after this band might break up. Like, we were all so mentally and emotionally and physically shot and in a bad place, where like there's no ill will between us as friends and guys in the band. Like, nobody hates each other or anything, but we were just in a bad spot. We bit off more than we can chew, being in the position we are physically and mentally and emotionally. And I'm proud of us for being like, hey, like this is gonna upset some people probably, but for the sake of ourselves, we can't go on tour right now. Like, we can't do another 4 weeks after this. We won't make it. The band won't go on. Like, there will be no more career for us. We have to pump the brakes. Like, and I know that you guys have gotten to a point now where you've probably established enough of your career where you guys have a lot of say in what your touring schedule looks like. But was there a point for you where you were like, I just don't know if I can be on the road anymore? Like, have you ever hit that point where you're like, I gotta fucking pump the brakes for a second?
Yeah, I think those conversations have happened with our band. Like, we, over the past, I want to say 5 to 8 years, the band has really grown in the sense of like making sure we're all good.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, you guys have been going at it for so, like, you guys went from being actual children together to being adults with adult lives, marriages, kids, owning homes, businesses. Like, you guys have grown together, and I it's not shocking to me that you guys have really figured out how to have those kinds of conversations. You have to.
Yeah.
It's the only way you can last this long.
Yeah, and especially together for so long, like you said. I think we've really done a good job of, there's guys that are like, hey man, this is a rough one for me, or there's stuff that is back home that's going on, or things like that. There was a time that a close family member of mine tried to commit suicide, and we were going to go on tour in Australia in like 3 days, and I was completely devastated,
Understandably so, yeah.
But I ended up doing the tour because I didn't want to let the guys down, and I didn't want to let the fans down. And it was Australia. We never, we don't go there all the time,
Right.
And so it's like, things like that, right? Like, there's real stuff that comes up in our lives. It's not rock star. I always tell everybody, like, rock stars don't really exist.
No.
Because the ones that do, like, they don't last very long.
No.
Like, you can't run a business and be partying all the time forever. Like, if you want to leave a legacy, and you know what I mean? Like, for what we're doing, it's like, you can't have that mentality. You can portray that mentality, and a lot of guys do that, and they do it really, really well. But behind closed doors, like, they're calculating numbers and looking at data. They're not, doing what you think they're doing all the time. So, there's times where things come up like that, and it's like, okay, what do we need to do? What's the audible here? But we've grown over time to really kind of recognize when somebody's got something going on. And so one of us will pull one of us aside and be like, hey man, what's, like, you're seeming like something's weird, and that's like what keeps us going, and we have very lengthy conversations about tours and the length of them, and is it going to be worth it, or can we do it, or and one of the things that we did with one of our headliners, we cut it in half, because then that way it was like, because a lot of these guys got, JB's got a kid, Brent's got 2, Matt's got a baby. So I have a baby, my gym, you know what I mean?
Right,
so it's like,
right.
There's just so much stuff, right? And so, I think we do a really good job of that, because we genuinely know that, like, if we're not all on the same page and we're not healthy, like, it's gonna be tough. and we don't want each other in that position.
It's like a fragile ecosystem that it's like real easy to like mess it up. We got too ahead of ourselves and we just threw a bunch of stuff on our plate without really thinking about what the cost of it would be emotionally, physically, all that stuff. And it tipped the scales real fast. And if you're not keeping that stuff in check, man, it'll catch up with you. Like, so I think it's, I mean, again, it makes sense why your band has been around for as long as it has and been as successful as it has, is like even beyond the music side of things, is you guys you're pros at this point at figuring that stuff out and thinking it through and discussing it. I think that's awesome. I hope that that's something that, like, if there's younger bands listening to this, that they take that into account, because the thing you said with your family member coming up 3 days before you went to Australia, like, those are the kinds of things that, like, I mean, for instance, Vigil's dad passed away while they were in Australia, day one of an Australian tour, and he kept on going. I mean, because his dad was also a musician, and for sure it's what his dad would have done. But I know that was a struggle for him. They missed one show and they kept going. But when you're younger and you're doing this, you're just like, I have to go. If there's an opportunity, I have to do it. And it's like, well, you don't have to. Like, if the ultimate thing at the end of the day is that it shortens the lifespan of what you're doing because you're going to emotionally burn yourself out, you don't have to. But right. I think it's good that you guys are checking in on that. And I don't know. I think it's a thing that more bands should be more conscious of, and it should be a more open conversation on a regular basis.
Yeah, and it just I mean, it's just a bonding experience too. It's like, yes, if you want to do this with this guy, you better understand, like, who he is and grow with him, because you're in it for the long run, man. Like this, like my bandmates, those guys are my family,
Absolutely.
And I love them dearly. And I know every little weird thing that they do, or I know how to upset them in a 1 second. But that's because I love them, and I care about them, and they care about me, like, and you need that passion, because when stuff gets hard, I'm trying not to curse so much. I don't know why
No, you're fine.
Sorry.
Hey, no matter how much you curse, it won't be more than me or Josh, so you're good. We'll make you good. The ratio will cancel you out. It's okay.
So, no, because when those difficult times come, these are the guys you got.
Yeah.
And so you need them to be strong. And in order for them to be strong for you, they need you to be strong for them.
Yeah,
and,
totally. And realistically, you said they're your family. You probably have spent more time with them than you have your family.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Yep.
It is.
And in a lot of ways, in much more intimate settings, because you're traveling
Absolutely.
in a steel tube, flying down the highway, living on top of each other for months at a time, and it's like, it doesn't get much more intimate than that.
It doesn't, dude. It doesn't.
It does not.
I want to get back to, because we've been yapping your ear off for over an hour already, so I have a couple questions. I want to know about how you even joined Augsburg Dread, because for all the time that we have known each other, I don't know if I've ever asked you that, but before we go to that, I want you to know that I don't know if I've ever told anybody in the band ever, but Josh and I played, and I don't even know if Josh remembers this.
I remember this.
I
do remember this.
So Josh and I have known each other since we were kids. Like,
Chris was 11.
Yeah, we started playing in a band together when I was 11 years old. And so we played.
That's amazing.
It's crazy, right?
It's a crazy fucking story.
It's his fault that I'm even in all of this bullshit now. So it's his fault that I'm a degenerate. It's what I'm saying. But
I'll take it.
We played a show with ABR before you were in the band, before Thrill Seeker was even out. It was some shitty festival at some VFW somewhere, and I remember walking by a merch table and seeing a bunch of dudes
they had like polo shirts on and shit.
Yep, super colorful Hollister polos, and I was like, oh, there must be a pop punk band playing today. And then they start playing. I'm like, oh, okay, fuck me.
Yep.
You could have fooled
crazy.
me.
I remember this. I wonder when that was.
That would have been when did Thrill Seeker come out? 2005.
2004. Wait. Thrill Seeker came out in 2005. The band started in 2004.
So it probably was either
had to be 2000.
Summer 2004 or summer 2005.
It was a long
but it was before Thrill Seeker came out, because no one had any clue who they were, and they blew everyone's mind. But
we're from Maryland and they're from Lancaster, so it was like
Who
it
the hell is this
wasn't
band?
it wasn't like but it wasn't like out of the question either
Right.
for them to come down to Maryland and play.
Yeah.
So it was crazy. But anyway.
But so I remember seeing them super early on and being blown away by them back then. How did that come into the picture for you, being that you're not from Lancaster? You know, like, how did you find out they even need a singer, and how did you end up in the band?
Yeah, so I had a buddy, John. We were at a party in South Carolina. Some girl was throwing a party at her apartment or something. And he comes up to me and he's like, yo, this record, you've got to hear this record. And my band, I think prior to that, maybe 4 months prior or 6 months, had just broken up. And so I was like, dude, I was so down and out. And so he grabs Thrill Seeker and he plays it at this party. And dude, Suburban Ruins. And I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, this is the style of music. It's progressive, it's intricate, it's aggressive. Like, it just sounds so good, right?
Yeah.
And John Williford was his name. And so, anyways, we talked about that or whatever. And then maybe a month or two went by. He hit me up and he was like, hey, man, that band, August Burns Red, with the record Thrill Seeker, their singer just quit. And I was like, yeah, that's wild. Like, that's crazy. He's like, you should try out. And I was like, how am I going to try out? I live in South Carolina, you know? He's like, yo, hit him with your demo on MySpace. And I was like, all right.
Oh,
so
MySpace.
Yeah, dude. So I hit him up with my demo of my old band, She Walks in Beauty. And then I think maybe a week later, I was painting apartments, or I was painting a house, and I get a call from Brent, you know, and he's like, is this Jake? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, we want you to try out. And I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. It was literally, I feel like it was like Friday. And I was like, do you want me to come like in a week or something? And he was just like, no, like, you should just come like tomorrow or Monday. And I was like, all right. Well, like, what happens if like you don't like me, you know? He's like, oh, we'll just tell you to go back home.
Yeah, it sounds like Brent.
Yeah, it really does. And I was like, okay, you know? So I hung up the phone with him. I walk into the house with my boss and I said, hey, I got to go. And he's like, what are you talking about? I was like, that band I showed you, like, I've got an audition in Pennsylvania and they want me there like today, you know? He's like, you're going to leave me here with this whole house I got to fix? And I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. He's like, go do it. He's like, if you walk back home with your tail between your legs, you still got a job. And I was like, dude, thank you so much. So I had a 1980 Honda Civic hatchback that I paid $500 for from my godmother. And I just stuffed my, stuff in there. I said bye to my mom. I said bye to my friends. And I just drove up. And I remember it was a long drive. It was like 12 hours or something. And thankfully, my dad lived in Virginia. So I knew that when I was done, I could go back to his place and just kick it for a little bit. And so I'm like an hour and a half away, and I get a hold of Brent and I'm like, hey man, can we grab lunch or something? You know? And he's like, no. Like we'll just be ready for you. You're like, just come. And, you know, I was thinking like we could break the ice, you know, and he's like, no, just come. Like, he's just straight business, you know? So I was like, okay. So then I get there. And they were practicing in Matt's farmhouse in an egg room. Don't expect your viewers to know how big an egg room is or what it looks like.
It's
but
not
very,
big.
very small. Yeah.
What is an egg room?
It's where they keep chickens' eggs, stock them up. So
I have chickens, but I don't have an egg room.
Yeah,
well, you're doing it wrong. Matt grew up on a giant farm though. So
was he Amish?
No.
Okay.
No, but his
father, I just remember going to Lancaster as a kid, and it was like the Amish people was all I remember.
Oh, it is. They're
everywhere.
Their Walmarts have parking spots for horse and buggy. They mean business awesome. There.
That is so cool.
It is cool. And but anyways, I get in this egg room and they're just like, they just give me this microphone and then they're like, yeah, man, we're just going to rip and jam and you can scream. So I'm screaming. Right. I'm just screaming. I'm screaming nothing. I'm just screaming.
No lyrics. Wait, were they playing songs off Thrill Seeker or were they just playing new shit and just being like, go to town?
Like just new stuff. Like they were just
jamming.
Yeah. They were just like, we're ripping here. And
that's so stressful.
Like, you're just yelling melodies.
I'm just trying to come up with something. And and then they were like, okay, we're going to try Thrill Seeker now. Cause I think what it was is like, I just wanted to like warm my voice up or something. So they were just like, all right, we're going to play this breakdown we're writing or something. And you can rip on it. But then it was like, all right, now we want to play Your Little Suburbies and Ruins. And that song was extremely difficult for me. And I was like, oh my God, thank God I just finished that. And I was like, well, what do you guys want to do? They're like, oh, tomorrow you're going to go to the studio and you're going to record on your little Suburbias and Ruins. And I was like, what?
Was it with Carson at least?
It was.
Okay.
But that didn't make it any easier for me because I didn't know Carson.
That's fair.
I'd never been in a studio with these guys, and I just have this pressure of learning this off-time signature stuff overnight, basically.
Man, I would have been shitting all over myself.
Dude, I was terrified. And then I went in there, and I remember I bought like a 6-pack of beer because I was so nervous. And so I had a few, and then I would go in there with Carson, and Carson is very gentle, but I don't know him, and I'm very intimidated. So, and he'd just be like, okay. So it actually starts on the down here, right there. Okay. You got it?
Dude,
yeah, I got it.
That's such a good Carson.
And then I would rip and he'd be like, okay, let me see if I can work with this real quick. Okay. So I'm gonna repeat it shorter for you. Okay. So and like we had to go so slow with me because I couldn't.
Was the band in there while you were doing this? Or was it just you by yourself?
I think it was just me. I'm pretty sure it was just me.
Because I just imagine them all standing there like this, just watching you do this. And I would just fucking, man.
Yeah, no.
I'm nervous right now for you. And this is 20 years ago, probably.
Yeah, I'm still nervous about it. I'm like, you guys sure I got this covered? Like, and so we just had to take baby steps on it. And my vocals sounded, because I was nervous, I didn't feel like I could really be myself, and so I kind of sounded like a tough, hardcore, dude. Yeah. And they were like, "Well, that's not what we're doing." Anyways, they said, "Look, we appreciate it. Go home. We got this other guy we're going to take on the road, but then we want you to do this next tour after that." And I said, "Okay, cool." So I went to my dad's. I'm learning the material, and then Brent calls me again. Maybe they're a week into the tour, and they're like, "Dude, so and so, our vocalist that we're trying out, so and so." Messed his voice up. Do you have any advice? And I was like, does he drink? He's like, yeah. I was like, give him a shot of whiskey, give him some lemon juice, hot, with some tea, this kind of tea, and tell him that he needs to drink a lot of water and sleep as much as he can. And he's like, thanks, man, appreciate it. And then I was like, did I just talk myself out of a job? And then, thankfully, obviously things didn't work out or whatever. And then I got my opportunity, and I'm trying to make this story a little bit shorter, but, with my old band, She Walks in Beauty, we would open up shows at New Brooklyn Tavern, and we opened up for like Norma Jean, Under Oath, Between the Buried and Me. And we played with BT Bam quite a few times and opened up for them. So I became friends with Tommy. I'm on these tours. I'm doing a tour with ABR. We go home. Matt loves me. JB's, I don't know if I like the guy. All right, we'll give him another run. They take me on another run. They come home. JB's ecstatic about me, thinks that he likes me. Matt's, he's back out. This happens, right? Finally, we go on tour with BT Bam. And Tommy's like, Jake, oh my gosh, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm trying to make it over here, And he's like, so we go on the run. ABR admires BT Bam. And at the end of the run, Tommy goes, look, guys, obviously not in front of me, but he's like, if you don't hire this guy, you guys are making a mistake, And so we played this festival called Cornerstone. It was a Christian fest.
Yeah, I remember Cornerstone, yeah.
And I did a guest appearance with Project 86 on the main stage.
Did you know them prior to this, or did it just happen?
One of my first legit tour was with Project 86.
Oh, okay, cool.
After that day, I got in the van with JB and I was like, hey man, like we're going home now for a break. I'm going to go to my dad's, whatever. Like, I really would love to know if I'm going to be in this band, and he said, yeah, we want you. So that was how that worked. And it was like 6 months of touring with them, and friends, family members were like, they're just using you till they find the right guy, da. But I really had faith in that moment, even when others were telling me that it wasn't going to work. And even I questioned myself, like, am I wasting my time? I was like, no, you just gotta ride it out, man. Like, stop listening to everybody. What do you want? Do you want it or not? If you want it, then you better tomorrow wake up and go after it. Exactly. So, and here we are,
How does that feel? How does that feel now, looking back, thinking, man, and how many years ago was that?
Over 20, it was 2006.
Okay, so 20 years ago almost.
Yeah.
Right? So think about that. 20 years. Like, just think about how much the iPhone has changed in 20 years.
Right? There probably wasn't an iPhone when he
There
started
wasn't
the band.
one, right? Think
There was
about
that
your flip
kick,
phone.
The sidekick.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so just think about that. 20 years. 20 fucking years ago.
That's wild.
And you're still doing it in the same band that you were not sure if you were even in.
Yeah,
That's crazy, right?
It really is, and what we've accomplished.
Yeah.
Right? And like, if you're in the industry, you know that like you can't do like this whole self-made stuff, where it's like, I did it, I made it. It's like, dude, I don't know who believes that. I don't know who believes that, because I've never met a successful person that did it all themselves.
No. Yeah, no.
It takes a body of people.
Yes.
Management, agents, the bus driver, I mean, a slew of everybody.
And let's be honest, there's always, no matter how hard a person, a group of people are working, there's always the element of luck and timing as well. Like being in the right place at the right time, putting out the right record at the right time, meeting the right person at the right time. There's always that factors into it too. I think that it's like part of it is being prepared to deliver in any given moment. Like that's up to you, but there's always that luck factor that plays into it. You know what I mean?
Out of curiosity, what would you say your definition? You talk about success. What is your definition of success? And then how would you say, as you continue to see or feel that success, how has it changed over the time?
Yeah, I mean, I think that success is based on the individual's desire of what they believe success is in their life. So like some people would go, oh, like I'm not successful because I'm not a millionaire, right? Like, okay, that's cool. Like I look at success as like, I don't know, can I live comfortably? That's a success. Because where I came from, we couldn't do that.
Right.
Absolutely.
Do I think living out my dream in a bus and playing music in front of people is success? You know what I mean? So I'm already successful. Like I opened a gym during COVID. Now, when I did that, there wasn't anybody who was coming yet because I had just opened, but that was a success. I was successful in doing that. You know what I mean? So I think that as we grow and mature and we evolve and we understand, comprehend what things matter to us, I would say that we're all successful to the degree of what we believe success is. So that's how I'm going to respond and answer that. Like, I think that there's other things that, of course, there's things that I want to accomplish, but am I successful? Absolutely. And because of others seeing my potential, or because of others believing in me or wanting to be a part of the journey that I was on, I am successful. There's nothing that I've touched that other people have not stacked their hands on that,
totally.
You know what I mean? And so that's the whole thing. Like, yeah. And I love it, man. Like I'm very blessed. I'm very thankful, and I want to give back. I want to encourage others. And I think that's why it's so important for me to be able to try to talk about life and mental health or struggles, because like, if you can just have faith in yourself and make small steps. I jumped in that car and I drove up to Pennsylvania because I had faith. I didn't take a family member's advice and quit, like we can do it. You can do it, and then look at the beauty that comes from that. Like,
totally.
When you believe that you can do something and you also want to honor others in doing it, and like,
absolutely.
Yeah, I'm very thankful for it. And it's just cool that I still get to do this. Like tomorrow I get to write lyrics,
Right.
and share a message, and
absolutely.
And it's cyclical, like I can give something to fans and they support us and they encourage us. Like I just had my birthday. There's a dude named Tommy Chow who lives in New Orleans. He's actually met you guys at a meet and greet. He, cause I saw a picture on his Instagram, and he sent me a cake, a New Orleans king cake.
Yeah. With the little baby doll,
with the little baby. Yeah. And I bit on it and I was like, what is it? And he's like, you got the baby cake, you gotta buy somebody else a cake. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So, it's like, it's real, man. Like this thing is real. This music scene is real. And And it's an honor and a privilege to be able to have invested my life and put it as a priority of my work to help it grow, and then watch it and be like, you know what I mean? Be like, man, that was really cool that I got to partake in something like that that's so much greater and bigger than me.
It's special, and I think it's important, and it's cool because you meet some people that have been doing it for a long time that are jaded or are, you know, they view it as in a different light, and it's neat to hear your vision of how appreciative you are on it all.
Yeah, for sure. Before we hit our day sheet round, which is our lightning question round, I want to ask you one more question because it's like the most recent thing you guys have done, and I think it's funny after hearing you talk about how much of a nightmare it was for you to try to re-record Little Suburbia for the first time. But you guys just did a re-recorded re-release of Thrill Seeker. Well, first off, most bands can't wait to stop playing their older material, right? And to be fair, I know at one point in time you guys were like that too, because when Texas toured with you guys in 2012, we did 2 nights in Chicago, and I begged you motherfuckers to play Barbarian the second night, and I got shot down every time I begged. So I know there was a point in time where you guys didn't want to do that. But no, in all seriousness though, it is really awesome, and that was like a pivotal record for the scene. I feel like that was the beginning of like kind of ABR kind of reshaping the sound of the genre for quite a while. But how did that idea even come up to like not only do like a anniversary re-release, but to get in there and like redo the whole thing? And then what was it like for you, somebody who was a fan of the band, to kind of get to put your own stamp on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. We were playing a festival. It was like a one-off fest. I don't remember where we were, but we had a hotel room and we all went to the hot tub, and we're sitting in the hot tub and we're talking about stuff. And I was like, we were just talking about things that we wanted to accomplish or something. I said, something I really wanted to do, and just we've never been able to do it, was like, I've always wanted to be on Thrill Seeker, man, and they're like, well, I mean, some people have asked you to do that or have asked us to do that.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, man, like it'd be a really big honor if I get to do that. And they're like, you want to do it? I was like, yeah, I do. And they're like, all right, let's do it. Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah. They're like, if that's what you want, then let's do it, man. And so after being like, that's really cool, then I was like, oh my God.
A little bit of PTSD.
Be careful what you wish for, or
right.
like what you pray for. And I was like, oh my God, like, what have I done? Like, because that record, in my own eyes, I don't know, I can only speak for myself, but like that record was really special to me.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you better not mess this up, because like if you do, it's going to be really bad. So I played this. I had to walk this line where I got to honor Josh and the nostalgia of that album, but then find little ways that I felt could be almost like of me, right?
Yeah.
And so by doing that, because a little side story, like when I first toured with August Burns Red, they were like, hey, nobody knows that we have a new vocalist or that we need one. So if anyone calls you Josh, you just say yes.
Yeah, you just go with it.
So I was signing stuff, Josh McManus, and I'm like, Josh, let me get a pic. I'm like, you know what I mean? And then, like, sorry, Josh. So like, to understand the severity of that album, and then I was trying to scream like him. So I learned, I call it the Thrill Seeker. So when I go in the studio with Carson or Grant, we'll talk and Carson will be like, that was a really good take, but can I get some Thrill Seeker on that? And I'm like, yeah. And I know exactly what he wants, right? Like,
that's cool. Yeah. That's cool.
So I was able to do some Thrill Seeker on Thrill Seeker, to keep the same vibe and energy. But then there were opportunities where I was like, man, I'm gonna mess this up. Like, I'm gonna get in here real quick.
Right.
And I'm gonna show you how I do it.
Sure.
And so then I got to do that. And like finding that balance, and then, making sure that the boys were like, yeah, that's dope. We support it, so that at least I wasn't, because that's how we work. That's how we operate. Like, I want everybody to be involved and nodding yes on vocals, because that's 80% of listeners listen to the vocals. And if they don't like the vocals, they won't listen to the band.
Right. Yep.
That's me. So, I'm that guy.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, that's most
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
Yeah.
If the vocals
Yeah.
are not appealing to me, if I don't,
100%.
I'm not attracted to them, I won't, it's going to be very difficult for me to digest the rest of the material. So we did that. And then when it came out, I was scared that I was nervous. I wasn't scared. I was nervous that a lot of the diehard fans that I care about were not going to like it because it was ruined. But I want to say, dude, the response was like great. Like,
yeah, I mean, I've not seen anything negative, and I very much a big fan of that record, and it is a very fine line when a band re-records, a record that is like near and dear to their fan base's heart. It's really easy to mess that up, but I think what works in your favor is that you very obviously are and were a fan of that period in the band, so you can come at it, like you said, from an angle of respect, trying to respect Josh and the songs that were meaningful to you back then. You're just putting your stamp on it, not trying to rewrite that part of the band, that history of the band. You're just trying to add your flavor into it. And I when I listen to it, I can hear that. And I think that's probably why it's being received so well, is like, you are a genuine fan of that record and that era of the band. I think it comes out in your performance. So like I said, I haven't seen anything negative, but that's probably why. Like, people feel the genuine nature of it.
Yeah. It was very cool, and definitely, we have this joke of like, when things happen, I'd be like, "Oh man, this is like one of the moments I knew we had made it," you know? And like, so we use that joke where, you know, when things go horribly wrong,
Right.
you know, basically whenever, but it's like, yeah, man, like that's one of the moments I knew I had made it. When the album that I held in my hand in 2006 was the album that really changed my life, and then I got to full circle be on that album. It's like, when does that happen?
Never.
When was that in the story? You
Never.
know, it wasn't.
But you know what? You wrote that part of the story. You willed that into existence, man.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
pretty cool,
wild,
man.
Give yourself some credit. Yeah. That's cool.
Nuts.
And
that's
I
cool.
also just want to, and we don't have to dive deep into this because this will send us on a whole other tangent, but I think that you should give yourself some credit for what you brought to the band when you guys put out Messengers, because at that point, that record fucking changed everything for the genre, and you are a gigantic piece of that puzzle, my man. So, you know, you spawned about 9 million August Burns Red clones after that record came out, and that changed everything. So, you know, I know that Thrill Seeker was obviously very important to you. What came after that you played a role in, I think not only changed your life, but I think changed the life of lots of people. And the, you know, this whole scene that we all get to exist in, like,
totally,
that will go down, I think, as one of the records that makes the biggest impact. And I could probably name, you know, like 5 records that, you know, like you've got like The End of Heartache, right? And like, you've got, you know, Shadows of Security from As I Lay Dying, like all these pivotal records that they were all shifts in the genre. Messengers is in that, you know, and it's always going to be in the DNA of everything all these bands do. So that's the last thing I wanted to say before we get into this lightning round. But I have
to bring up one other thing.
Okay, go for it. Go for it.
That's amazing.
I keep seeing him sip this fucking Bruins cup, and
I remember.
Oh no, I'm not hating on the Bruins. I'm not a hockey guy. I'm a football guy. But I remember at Heart Support, I think was right when your video went viral from the Bruins game. And you showed us that video, and I've been watching you sip this cup now for an hour and a half, or hour and 45 minutes now, and I've been wanting to bring this video up because it was fucking awesome.
Yeah, dude, it was like I literally for 2 weeks after this video went viral, I thought I was in a simulation. I was like, for real. I was like, what just happened? Right. So I connected with the NHL, and they invited me out to the Winter Classic, and the NHL's great people. The person that leads their social media or whatever, he's awesome. And he's like, yeah, do you want to come to the Winter Classic? You can bring a friend. And I was like, oh dude, I got to do this. This is once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah. You don't really say no to something like that.
Was he a fan of the band before or no?
No, not really.
Okay, cool.
I don't think he was really a fan of the band.
Cool.
I'm not going to say his name, but like, when I first met him, like I thought I thought he was like going to be like a hockey football bro guy.
Yeah.
Not at all, dude. Not at all.
Really?
Not like, just the biggest smile on his face, long hair, real like groovy baby type of like guy. Let's go ride the nar. And I was like, this is the NHL, you know?
Right.
I was like, this is amazing. Like, I was like, I love this dude so much. But anyways, he gives us tickets. My homie and I go to the thing. We went to like a special dinner and all this kind of stuff. And so the seats for the Winter Classic, it was in Boston's. What's the
Green
baseball?
Monster?
Yes, thank you.
Fenway
Park.
Yeah.
And so the actual ice is like in the center of this field.
Yeah.
And we're in these seats. And so it was kind of far away, so you could watch the jumbotrons, right? But there was a path walking to and back from the commentators' booths, right? Like, you know, all the sports channels and stuff. And so there was a dude named Biz Nasty who's on a hockey podcast. Vigil will know him. And then there's Wayne Gretzky. And they're walking right by our seats. And this little kid, you know, goes over the thing and he's like, Wayne, you know, and Wayne shakes his hand. And I was like, that's crazy, right? So they go and they do their commentating thing. And then they start to walk back. And the little kid goes, and Wayne Gretzky shakes his hand. And I was like, this kid right here just got 2 handshakes from Wayne Gretzky. I was like, dude, if Wayne Gretzky walks back, I'm putting my hand out there. I'm doing it. So then I see Biz and Wayne Gretzky walking down again. And I'm like, I'm going for this, man. So I get up to the edge of this thing. And like the kid's hand was like here. And he's just struggling to, you know, and I went, you know what I mean? So like the kid's hands like this, I was like, Rah. and because I was like, I gotta do this. I just gotta give it a go. And so I have got my hand out, and Wayne shakes my hand, and I was like, immediately, I was like, this is crazy cool for me. And then I was like, but I just robbed this kid of a handshake with Wayne Gretzky. Like, how dirty are you? And I was like, so I held on to Wayne's hand and I pulled Wayne in so that he could get the handshake with the kid. Yeah, even though the kid had gotten 2 previous.
He got a hat trick.
Yeah. So then I was like, because I can't be that dirty of a dude, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? So I locked him in. He got his 3rd, and then I was just like blown away. And my buddy, I look at my buddy, and I'm like, I just shook Wayne Gretzky's hand, and I'm like, things are changing in my life. And the moment I say that, the Bruins score their winning goal.
Oh my God.
And the horn just goes, Brr. And I'm like,
oh man.
And I look up at the board and it's like, Bruins score. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, and I'm just screaming at the top of my lungs, and everybody's screaming. And I sent the video to NHL, and I was like, yo, can you, like, how does this happen, you know? And he goes, hey, can I post this or whatever? And I said, I don't care, you know? So he posts it, and then it just caught like wildfire. All the sports news.
It was everywhere.
It was everywhere. And like one of my buddies from Canada or somebody sent me this morning news from Canada, right? And like it's like, top story for, is Boston Bruins in this video. And this guy's like, oh, dude, this guy is so jacked out of his mind. It's probably the most amazing thing that's ever happened to this guy in his whole entire life. And then it's just me freaking out, you know? And it was just such a cool moment to be like, to shake Wayne Gretzky's hand, being at the Winter Classic, where the NHL had invited me, and then the Bruins score instantly after I shake Wayne Gretzky's hand. It was just like all of these things dominoed, and then it went viral, and I was just like, what's happening to me? Like, what's happening?
I was going to say, not only did the moment take place, but you got it on video, which is like unheard of.
You literally couldn't have scripted that moment any better.
At all.
It was insane, and it was so cool. And my buddy who was with me was the one who taught me hockey, and
that's fucking awesome,
and got me into being a Boston Bruins fan. So it was like this cool moment for us to like have.
Definitely,
yeah. It was just so dope. It was so much fun, and And then we made shirts, with like me on the back as like looking like a Bruin. Things are changing my life or whatever. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. It was really cool.
So
really cool
awesome.
moment.
Yeah, it's awesome.
All right, so I'm gonna hit you with the day sheet questions. This is a lightning round. I'm gonna read the question, and the first thing that comes to your mind, that's your answer. All right, our first one is a little dangerous. Don't go pissing off people who buy your tickets. What?
Oh yeah,
I've already blown it. I've already blown it.
What's your favorite city to play?
Boston.
All right, fair.
Oh,
I'll allow
that's
it.
Fair. After that story, you can't.
Yeah,
blame
that's
them.
fair. No one can be mad about that. All right.
Nope.
If you could tour with any band, past or present, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh my gosh. The first band that came to my mind was Coldplay.
Okay, that would be a hell of a wild mix-up, but that would be sick.
Yeah,
I gotta tell you a funny Coldplay story.
Why are they here?
Chris, did you go to us to HF Festival back in the day?
Before you say another word, and don't you speak again. Don't speak again. Jake, you got to understand.
I have to tell the story.
No, okay, that's fine, but you don't speak until I'm done.
I won't.
Jake, you have to understand that there's this thing that Josh does because we've known each other for so long that he constantly brings up like, and remember, we started playing in a band together when I was 11. I was a child. Yeah. So Josh,
Let me preface this by saying it's not my fault that your mom wouldn't let you go to shows.
All right, get out of here. I'm talking to Jake.
All right.
So he'll constantly be like, hey, did you go to like XYZ super sick, unbelievable lineup show at this tiny venue or this radio show that was free for these sick bands? I'm like, no, I didn't go. Thanks for fucking reminding me. He does this to me. He does this to me like once a month. Anyway, continue, Josh.
All right. So we were at there was this festival back in the day called HF Festival. HFS was the big radio station at home. And it was like a radio fest, at the stadium. So we're in Redskins Stadium, I think, and Coldplay is playing. And dude is just fucking getting it on the piano, just going to town, right? Yeah. And I'm in the back in the seats, and I just see this fucking water bottle. And it comes just flying through the air. And it cracked him in the side of the head. And I tell you, he didn't even acknowledge that water bottle and just kept fucking hammering that piano.
Yep, you know what?
It was the coolest thing.
Yep,
it was awesome.
Happened.
It was fucking awesome. I didn't mean to mess up the lightning round, but he said Coldplay, and I had to share.
Totally
that.
fair. And also, if you're going to shows, stop throwing shit at the people on stage. You're not cool. You're just a piece of shit. None of us like you. Anyway,
Chris, after this, call your mom and tell her that you wish she would have let you go to shows when you were a kid.
After we get off this, I'm going to call my mom and guilt her for not letting me have fun as a child. Anyway.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's good.
Good. Guilty pleasure artist.
Guilty pleasure artist. Can I look? Can I look at? Can I look at?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
He's deep in thought.
There's no cheating in this.
No, that's too gangster. Hold on.
No.
We ain't gonna go there. Hold on.
Who was it? Who was the two gangster one? At least tell us.
Hold on. I'm trying to think. I'm really. Oh, here we go. Hold on. We're gonna get something here. You guys are messing me up, man. You're messing me up.
My bad.
I'm trying to think of like a guilt, like something that people would be like, oh.
I mean, an acceptable answer. Ed Sheeran?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I think that's probably one that people would not.
Ed Sheeran is one of my favorite artists of all time. I think he's fucking great.
I do too. And it's mainstream or whatever, but I think he's still got like his own thing going there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I honestly probably listen to more mainstream shit than not at this point. Yeah. And I think Ed Sheeran's awesome. And if anybody's got a problem with that, they're losers.
They can call you, right?
No, don't call
him. Put his number up. Put his number
Let me give him his number. Yeah, I'm going to give it to him right now.
Don't call me. Moving on.
717.
Okay, here's the scenario. ABR rebrands overnight and has to change genres. What would you guys play instead?
Is this a real question?
Yeah, this is part of the lightning round. Yeah.
If we had to switch genres of music.
Yeah, overnight you guys are like, you know what? Enough of this progressive metalcore shit. It's time to do something completely different. Tomorrow we're going to be a what band?
I would say like a bluegrass old country band.
Okay.
And I would just be able to really get it. I would get that. Nice. Sure. That'd be sick.
I love that, and I feel like that would be right. Matt could really lean into like the farm boy thing. I fully support
Absolutely.
it. Griner Farms all the way, baby.
I'm so curious. Actually, I'm really fucking this lightning round up.
Yes,
tonight.
you are.
Can we go back to the egg house really quick? When you were
You want to go about 2 hours back? All right.
Yeah, when you were trying out, was there like eggs on the wall?
No, there wasn't any eggs in the egg room.
Okay.
It was an
Yeah,
empty
but that's where
room that they used to do that in, that they used for practice.
Oh, I
Yeah.
got you. Okay,
Yeah, they used to store the eggs in there.
In my brain, I'm just sitting here thinking of a wall with fucking just dozens of eggs lined up. All right.
No,
Okay.
no.
Cool. All right. Sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead. Next question.
Describe your life in a movie title.
In a real movie title.
Or you can make
you
one
want me
up.
to make up in a movie title.
What would be the title of a movie about your life?
Messy Me.
All right. Respect.
That's it.
Simple,
yeah.
straight to the point. I like it.
Yeah.
Coffee or tea?
Is this a real question, bro?
He's out of here.
You're asking other people? I want to know. Have you asked this question to other people, and do they ever pick tea?
One has.
Who? Yeah, I forget. Somebody did. Who was it?
I think it was the last dude we had on here. Who the hell was that?
Telly. It
Telly.
was.
Oh, you had Telly on here?
Yeah,
I love Telly.
He
dude.
the biggest sweetheart. I love him so much, and I'm pretty sure he did pick tea. You're right.
I think he did. He's the only one though.
Yeah, coffee every time for me.
Same. I mean, it is 9:00 at night, and I just finished another cup of coffee right now. So same.
You're a
fucked up.
psycho.
Yep.
Yeah,
And you know
you
what?
are
I'll be able to
fucked
go to bed as soon as we hit end recording.
Yeah.
I'm that guy.
I had a Celsius last night at like 6 or 7.
and you've been
That's
awake since
dangerous
then.
business, dude. Yeah.
That stuff is no joke, bro.
Yeah, it's crack in a can.
It's no joke.
Okay, well, on that note, are you a morning person or a night owl?
I think I'm a night person
Me too.
for the most part because of the job on tour. But when I get home, I am always trying to become a morning person.
I feel like you're probably a pretty regimented person, pretty disciplined with that kind of stuff, since you own a business, and part of that business is being a responsible guy who works out at the gym. So all of that makes sense.
Yeah. When I'm home, I got to be an adult. When I'm on the road, I get to be a little more relaxed with things because, I'm getting off a stage at 11 o'clock at night. There's no way I'm going to be able to, hang my hat up until 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And then you've got to like try to sleep while this thing is on wheels and it's moving around.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tough, but I would say night owl overall.
Fair. Favorite show you went to as a fan?
Favorite show I ever went to as a fan? Cigaros.
That's a good one.
Wow.
I saw
Awesome.
Cigaros at Bonnaroo in 2009, and it was one of the coolest things I've ever experienced in my life. They played at like 2 a.m. Everyone around me was tripping balls. I was not. And watching the people watching Cigaros was honestly almost as entertaining as watching Cigaros. But anyway, your most used emoji.
Oh, the laughing one with the tears.
Yep. Okay. Crying, laughing. Yep. Same. Do you have a hidden talent?
No.
Okay. Fair enough. What's your favorite snack on tour?
Oh, well, so I had made this public before and then it ruined it for me.
Okay. Did you start getting it from everybody? Did the
Yes.
fans start gifting it to you and it was too much?
Let's just skip this question.
Pounds of it. It was
Yeah,
Haribo gummy bears. And I still love Haribo gummy bears.
Yeah, I do too.
But man, I mentioned it in an interview and boy, do I love my fans because they have good intention.
Oh, yeah.
But then I couldn't house
Right,
all of
totally.
the bags of,
Have you
you know what I mean?
Yep.
Have you had the 5-pound gummy bears? Because back when I used to tour manage Motionless forever, and we did a thing where we put it on Twitter that we like gummy bears, and people started bringing us the 5-pound
Yes.
giant ones.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Nope.
They taste like
it's
shit.
like an individual. It's
Yes.
just one gummy bear.
One giant gummy bear.
No, I've never had that.
It tastes like shit.
Yeah,
but
I'm
it's
sure.
wild. It's
Well, you're
it's
kind
5
of like,
pounds. It's
remember those jawbreakers that were so
Oh, yeah.
big you had to lick them?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's also
It's like
not
that.
It's not sanitary. When you start eating something and you can't complete it in one sitting, throw it away. This is pointless.
If you've got to work on this thing and put it in a bag for later, you're probably
better off not eating it.
Can you even actually finish one of those?
No way.
I don't know.
No way.
I mean,
I still got my molars, so I definitely couldn't.
if you can, you shouldn't. You shouldn't.
Definitely should.
All right,
not.
here's the last one. Your go-to song to get you pumped up. Probably the gangster thing you were talking about earlier, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm. It should be.
Probably. Yeah, that's funny, man. So let me think. Okay, so I don't know a specific song that necessarily I listen to every single time to get pumped. But I mean, I have some of I call them the homies, or like the boys. And it's like songs that my friends have written that I will listen to. So we've got like, let me see here. Kubla Khan, Low Tech.
Oh yeah.
We've got Make Them Suffer, Epitaph. We've got Let Them Pray from NF. We've got an old one here called Generation from Death Star.
Sick.
And then we've got,
I forgot about Death Star.
Me too.
yeah, we got Resentment from A Day to Remember, Blessed Be from Spirit Box.
Yep.
Here's a song that gets me jacked and gets me ready to rip that I don't think a lot of people know about this band. They're a Finnish band called Assemble the Chariots, and the song is called Empress. Listen to that song. I think they're still a band. This song is like, it actually gives me this similar energy that when I listened to Suburban Ruins for the first time. It's got that kind of energy.
Sick.
And
wow.
I just thought that these guys, like, I wish that these guys got a little more notoriety, because it's clear to me that they are talented musicians and songwriters. So I would check that out. That would be the answer.
Hell yeah.
This is my favorite question to ask everybody. If you had 5 minutes to talk to, let's say, Jake when he was on his 6-month trial period, what would the message be?
You're going to go on the biggest ride of your life, and it's going to be 100 times better than you think it is, than what you expect. That's what I think I'd say.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, just
That's awesome.
strap in, bro.
Yeah.
Hold on tight.
Buckle up.
And you're going to.
Yeah.
Because this is not, it's going to get crazy, you know?
That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
Well, Jake,
Oh yeah.
thank you so much for giving us some time today. This is genuinely an honor to have you on. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
it's awesome.
Oh, dude. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, Chris, I love you. And I have so much admiration and respect for you and your band and your boys. And Josh, I know that we got to talk at Heart Sport Fest for a very short minute, but dude, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for the time and wanting me to
jumping on
to be on the podcast is super rad. Thank you, boys.
Of course, man. Hey everyone, Chris here, and I just wanted to take a second to say thanks for watching today's episode. You can check out more episodes of Late for Load-In on the right side of your screen and find any applicable links to this episode in the description down below. There you'll also find a link to our Patreon, which is the most direct way to support the show, and it's only $1 a month. Please consider giving this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to follow us on all social platforms, at Late for Load-In, at Chris_TGI, at Josh Carell. See you guys next week.